Hello Reddit. What is your most traumatic experience with a teacher? I was bullied really bad. Kids kept drawing awful ugly photos and leaving them on my desk with profanity towards my appearance. I had enough one day after dealing with a lot of abuse at home and the bullying at school, and when I saw another broke down crying and brought it to my teacher. She just grabbed it, looked and asked if I wanted it back. Did nothing to help, wouldn't listen to me about the constant bullying, and did absolutely nothing. I was in 7th grade and still remember it to this day. When I was in high school I got a lot of nosebleeds. Like a lot. So I got one in the middle of class and I asked the teacher for a tissue. She said she didn't have any, so I asked to go to the toilet to get one, then she said no. Soon I asked again when blood was dripping from my hands and she yelled at me for repeating myself, which is apparently bad. Soon a puddle of blood was on the table, then I got sent to isolation for disrupting the class. I was then suspended for acting inappropriate during class. She was then fired for putting my life at risk. I gotta say, when you get a nosebleed like that, you really see how much blood is inside of you. Mine is more of a light-hearted traumatic. In 4th grade I collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I had gotten the, at the time, new 3 Egyptian god cards. Well, I was caught playing with them during class and my teacher took them from me and threw them out. I was devastated after all the packs opened and cards traded to acquire them. I never forgave her. Did they ever end up being worth anything before all the reprint boxes? I would love to see her face if she found out they were worth some coin. My favorite teacher in middle school was arrested for child pornography. He wasn't my favorite after that. He also wasn't my teacher after that. Technically it was the vice principal, but the day my brother died, apparently he thought it would be a good idea to walk in on story time. The teacher was reading to the class, set me on his lap, and tell me in front of everyone that my brother committed suicide. Teacher told me I was a liar to the whole class as she didn't believe my grandmother was a World War II evacuee. She refused to believe me as she assumed my mum was younger than she looked at the time, and therefore my grandmother was younger as well. She thought my mum was in her late 20s when in reality she was in her early 40s at the time. Got accused of plagiarism over a paper I wrote and didn't plagiarize that I was really excited about because of how well I thought I did on it. Enthusiasm fully destroyed. During quiet reading time, teacher brought me to front of the class because I was reading a book for girls, and he asked me why are you reading a G.I. book? Are you a girl? Then made me choose a book for boys to read. I was maybe 10 or 11. The book was Matilda, by the way. We were discussing Jane Vanier and Lark. For context, Jane Vanier decided to invite 2 intellectually disabled men to live with him and started setting up homes for them so they wouldn't be in asylums. The teacher looked right at me, I'm disabled, and said, oh yeah, Vanier created those homes so you people wouldn't be bothering people because the handicapped don't function in society. My friend I left just to talk it out. He got fired a few years later because he did not have his license up to date. Cherry on top, his wife was the vice principal. One time I was on my period and I asked the teacher to go to the bathroom multiple times. She refused to let me go. Eventually I stained my uniform in the chair. I was so embarrassed that I started crying. When my mother found out, she made the school fire that motherfucker. I got into a shouting match with my band director before a marching band competition in another state. He had anger issues and the fight was over him calling me out in front of everyone for messing up my saxophone solo the week before. There was no one else around to see or hear the shouting. He never said so much as a word to me for the remainder of my time in high school, and I was perfectly fine with it. Not exactly me, but had a teacher yell at one of my friends for not doing his homework and give him a Saturday school, even though his parents had died the night before. I'm 65, and I still remember when I was 6 and the nun told me to wash my desk and then wring out the sponge, and when I squeezed it instead of twisting it, told the whole class that my mother was a bad mother because she had not taught me correctly. I knew if I protested that my mom was a good mom I would be punished. It still bothers me that I didn't stand up for her. Why did that nun have to put me in that position? God damn it. Used to love math and science until I had a teacher in 6th grade who would bully, mock, and do everything in his power to embarrass me in front of the entire class. I lost all love I had for school after that class. Fuck you, Mr. Bright. I had a teacher bring a knife to school and threaten me with it as a joke. He didn't get any reprimand to my knowledge and I hated going to class for the rest of the year. I wasn't removed from the class since it was the only advanced Spanish class. If there hadn't been witnesses, I would have thought I'd dreamed it. I was in the 4th grade. Found a dry erase marker on the playground. I wrote my initials on the tire swing. Classmate rats me out. I get yelled at for like 20 minutes straight about vandalism of school property. She starts going off about how it's the first step to becoming a criminal. Being a little kid, this scared the shit out of me. It was probably another 2 years before I believed that I wasn't going to become a criminal as an adult. Had a teacher who hated my dad because he used to trespass onto the facility my dad was a manager of back in the day. Fucker was taking it all on me and was pretty open about it. I had some mental health issues developing and spent a lot of time out of class with the well-being staff. When someone asked where I was one day, the teacher, who I previously looked up to and had confided in, decided to tell everyone that I was doing terribly and needed help. When I confronted him and said, dude, what the fuck? He said he thought it would help so people would be gentle. I do believe he had good intentions, but it did not fucking help. 6th grade. I was 11. Hadn't been diagnosed with now ADHD yet. The only way I could pay attention in class was if I doodled in the margins of my notes and bounced my legs. My history teacher noticed I did this, and if he caught me, he'd rip the page out of my notebook, show it to the class, and marvel at what a bad student and unintelligent person I was to everyone. Edit. If you're less suspicious about yourselves, hit up a psychiatrist for an ADHD test. These were symptoms for me, though they may not be indicative of ADHD for everyone. Talk to a professional about it. I accidentally played footsie with a teacher. He was my English teacher and also the baseball coach. The baseball and softball teams traveled together sometimes and somehow we wound up sitting at the same table. Though I was nudging someone else and he said something. I turned beet red. Screamed at me because I came in smiling and humming BC it was my birthday, said it was disruptive, and I cried on the spot and now I have burning hatred for that teacher. But hey, she got hit by a car. Don't worry, not a scratch though, just bumped. Teacher accused me of stealing artwork I imagined and created myself. She failed me for the quarter. Hands down the best teacher I ever had got pulled out mid-class to get arrested for multiple child molestation charges. Computer teacher shamed me into withdrawing from the one programming class the school offered after the first day of it because he said he didn't think I was capable of learning how to program and that other kids more capable couldn't take it because I was filling a spot. My teacher called me out in front of the whole class saying I had ADD after being diagnosed and asked if I took my meds today for everyone to hear. This was before ADD was just a big joke that everyone had. She got Teacher of the Year award that year, even though she was mean as hell. I finally got a good grade on a test one time and she accused me of cheating also. One school I went to was awful. I had a teacher who yelled at me regularly. One of the worst ones was when I didn't have a worksheet, which I knew was in my locker, so she freaked out about my messy desk, pulled it into the hallway, and dumped it on the floor. The gym teacher was equally as bad if not worse. This school was very athletic and students' treatment was based on athletic ability. I'm not at all athletic, never have been. We had to run around the football field and baseball diamond at the start of every gym class. If you slowed down, even to catch your breath, you had to go around again. I spent many gym classes just walking the field because I can't run that fast, so why bother? Honestly, there is so much more. That school really messed me up. Starting in sophomore year of HS, every Valentine's Day I would get a secret admirer card in my locker. Being an idiot high school girl, I was super flattered, and my friends and I would try and ring our brains to figure out who it was. Finally, come senior year, I get another sweet admirer card, except this year it is sent to my home address and, instead of being handwritten, is typed out and pasted onto the card with the lyrics from one of my teacher's favorite Bob Dylan songs, Simple Twist of Fate. So turns out my secret admirer all throughout high school was in fact one of my teachers. On top of the secret admirer cards, the day after I graduated he started texting me telling me to get drunk for pillow talk. No thanks, buddy.